I think there are a few things quite as funny as the would you like an egg in these trying times joke. I am Aspen Dracaena, your friendly neighborhood Ice Dragon Bookwyrm VTuber, and today we're gonna dig a hole because that's about all the energy all the energy I have for a game is just digging a hole. In real life, digging holes like on a farm like I used to do is exhausting. But in a video game, it's so easy. So, let's see. So, human mother is home. Is there a story to this game? I didn't know there was a story to this game. Hang on. I'll talk a little bit more after we see this. Is it a house for sale? It is a house for sale. Only $10,000? What? $10,000 for a house? Oh my god, that's a deal. That is a really good deal. Yes. What are we going to throw in the holes? I don't know. Super Mega Digger 3000 Ultimate 2.0. Explodes when battery gets empty. Uh-oh. I know, in this economy, like, you'd be lucky if you got an apartment that cost $10,000 for 2 months' rent. Yeah, so anyway, let me get back to, I was going to talk about something. So yeah, human mother is home. Human nephew has very kindly, because he is on break from college, has been coming in on the days that, or will be coming in on the days that I work to look after human mother so that I don't have to do all the work myself. Hi, Panda Honey. And which I really appreciate. I am really grateful for him for doing that. And yeah, it was a little crazy last night. My human mother woke me up at 3 a.m. because she had a stomach ache and she was worried about her blood sugar. So, you know, it's just going to be an adjustment. I haven't had anybody in my house to wake me up in the middle of the night like that for a while. So, adjustments. But it'll be good. It'll be good. Goonies never say die, yes. Okay, so we've got... Can we go in the house? No, we can't. I think we just literally, all we can do is dig a hole. Oh, we can go in here. Ah, okay. Alright, so we can sell ore. Okay. Through the computer on eBay. Solar Punk. Okay, is that a game made by these people who, Okay, I can build stuff here, I'm guessing? Oh, I can upgrade my shovel. Nice. Okay. And... Oh, this is a book. Oh, for me to save. Okay. And I can't pick those up. Alright, I guess we're gonna dig a hole. Yeah, I'm really glad that human mother is well enough to be home. Because it's a good sign, you know? Alright, are we ready? Are we going to break ground on this digging adventure? Yes? You ready for this? I don't know if I'm ready for this. Let's find gold! That's not gold. Okay. So if I keep it going in the same spot... Okay. Let's dig around. Okay. What is that? It's a stone. Okay. Do, 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 do. What do you think we'll find? I haven't seen a lot of gameplay of this game. I think the appeal of it to me is for a certain time in my life I really wanted to be an archaeologist. So maybe we'll find some fossils. You love eating stones. I claim this planet in the name of Mars. Ooh, isn't that lovely? I think I've seen a little bit of Jacksepticeye's play of this. But I kind of wanted to go in a little fresh. I know it's not a complicated game. But oh, my inventory is full. I guess I go over here then. What do I do? Nope. I think I put it here. Sell. Okay. Yeah, simple games are great. And lately with the way how I've been things have been going, I kind of appreciate having something simple. Okay. Alright, we have $3. We can't buy anything yet. Okay. Let's go. Let's dig some more. It's like Minecraft, but not square. Battery low. I must recharge the battery. Oh my gosh. Okay. Here. Charge. And my health is full. That's good. I can lose health in this game? Okay. I had a oh, how did Aspen go? Tell us about the anime you found. Did you find anything particularly unusual or interesting that you want to tell us about Digi? Because I'm curious. Or did you hear about any new animes that are coming out that seem like they're worth the watch? I mean, if the tool can possibly explode. I mean, you know, if I let it explode, it'll probably make a bigger hole. This is such a point-and-click game. Wait, what? Okay, I thought I saw something in there. I thought there was like a... Oh, wait, what's this? It's more stone. Oh, there's another stone. I mean, hey, at least we're finding stones. And they look kind of pretty, actually. They look like moonstones. I actually like... Oh! Inventory full. We need bigger inventory. No. Oh, wrong place. Hang on. We must sell. Sell the money. Sell. Okay. Well, I sat through a reading of bad Sonic fanfiction, learned about places that make records for anime soundtracks, saw an anime version of Alien, got some pictures. I got a stack of anime. Oh, and pictures. An anime version of Alien. Let's upgrade this shovel. I have no more money. Okay. But I have a better shovel. This is just like when my dad and I were digging a trench for our central air heating system. That is so real. Yeah, this reminds me of when I had to dig up holes to put posts in for a, but I need a... Okay. Sell the stone. Quick, sell the stone. Maybe I shouldn't spend my money too quickly. Sell. Okay. And battery charge. Oh. Ah, relief. That's the most excitement. That is the most excitement. I cannot imagine an alien anime. That is crazy. And I will say this. I love the movie. I think Alien as a movie, the original movie, is such a good blend of science fiction and horror. I think it's very well done. And I think, it's well deserved, its reputation as a quality movie. I don't know about all the Alien versus Predator movies, though. Again, gosh, our inventory fills so fast. Someone made it. It was shown in bits and pieces in Anime Hell. That is wild. Oh, yes, Anime Boston and MomoCon are going on. That's right. There was, where I live, a few weeks ago, there was a local sci-fi and fantasy convention that was going on. No! No, battery low. No! No! Stop it. Stop it. Okay. Inventory. I need to save up for battery size, I think. I think that's the next thing. Pumpkin Potion is going to be at MomoCon. Good for her. I like Pumpkin Potion. Like, some people really stand out in the VTuber world in terms of, like, their models. And I think Pumpkin Potion is definitely one of those people. Just has such an interesting new material. I found coal. Oh my gosh, we are those kids digging mines.
Hello there.
Hi, Mac. How you doing? There was a VTuber card game at Aspen played in the dealer's room. Some VTubers even had people walking around holding monitors with their faces and interacting with the crowd. That's cool. I think that a lot of the ways VTubers are, attending conventions through, tablets and stuff, I think that's actually kind of cool. Alright, so let's charge and keep going, and then next time we'll buy a battery upgrade. Yeah, it's good to see you too, Mac. Cool. I wonder how old we are, if we're just like some kid who just wants to dig. We're gonna just mine away. These kids just want to dig up mines. Inventory full. Again. Okay. 2 VTuber card games. One is V-Card, which has an unfortunate connection, and the other is Astraline's card game. I haven't seen any of the card games. We have $10. Oh, we can afford a battery upgrade now. Oh, we so can. There we go. Nice. And let's charge it up. We have $3. Okay. Yay! V-Card. Yeah, I mean, I am old enough to buy the house. I don't necessarily... I would love it if I had the... Wait, why is it... Hole? Oh, there we go. Okay. It's not letting me go deeper. That's interesting. I have to dig all the stuff around it first. Ooh, I found iron. I think that's more coal. Coal! Here's coal. Okay, I do feel like I need to keep some, like... I need to be able to get out of here. So can I just jump up there? Okay. Alright. Let's make this the deep side then. Ooh, there's two. Alright, and then this is the... We're digging up holes, dig it. I was thinking of the music from the movie Holes all day today. I was thinking, I need to play this game. And, just because of the book and the movie. Okay. Now, alright, this is our entry. So, yeah, it's been interesting having Human Mother back home because, you know, when you go for like several weeks living in a big space by yourself, you kind of get used to the quiet and that all the noise that you experience comes from you. And then, you know, there have been a few times when I've actually kind of gotten a little jumpy because I was like, oh wait, there's somebody else in the house. I forgot. And inventory full again. Okay. So you hear how the original adaptation of Holes is going to go? No, I don't. There was going to be a different adaptation of Holes. Was it a bad porn version? Because oh my gosh, there are a lot of bad porn versions of movies out there. Okay, I had something interesting happen on my Sims 2 session today. TLDR, I had a Sim reach the top of a career ladder that wasn't his lifetime aspiration. It was just a job I had him pick up in the meantime. Interesting. What does that do, like, in terms of... Because I've never tried that. Have, like, give a character a career aspiration and then have them do a different job just to, you know, make some money. But because I know, like, a lot of times in Sims, like, sometimes you just have to get your characters a job so they can make a living. All right. Okay, so urban legend has it that the original idea was that it's in a post-apocalyptic future and each hole was supposed to have some supernatural connection. Interesting. Now, you see, I've read the book. Like, the Holes movie, as it is pretty accurate to the book, I would say. But, like, I kind of like that idea. It's like each hole somebody digs up is a portal to somewhere else. In a way. So, speaking of movies, well, speaking of genres, so, I want to let you guys know something. I am probably going to steer away from from horror games for a while. There's a reason for this. I stopped taking a medication and I started experiencing pretty major anxiety. It wasn't a mental health medication. It was something totally unrelated to, I'd say pretty much unrelated to mental health. But going off of it sometimes, and it's unusual, but can sometimes cause people to experience anxiety. So I decided I'm probably going to keep my games pretty chill. Games like this, or Power Wash, or whatever. Just so I'm kind of looking out for, you know, any anxiety I may experience while I'm recovering from going off that medication. But, yeah, I definitely want to keep things kind of simple for a little while in terms of, you know, not going overboard with games that will amp up my anxiety. I will continue playing Okami. Okami is not a problem. It's more games where there's like jump scares or stuff like that. Okay, Stanley's crime was he mercy killed his sister who was dying from plague, and what they found is a buried A-bomb. Jeez. Good God. That's interesting coming from a... But, you know, Hollywood does that. Like, they'll take a book, a good book, a quality book, and they'll be like, but let's change everything. And it's like, no, please, no. But yeah, I'm gonna try keep things simple. I have a lot of non-horror games. Maybe what I'll do is I'll make some Sims. I have Sims 4. I can do some Sims streams if people want. I can make Sims of all my friends. Or I can make Sims of characters in my books. Or my short stories. I can do that. That might be kind of fun, actually. Let's see. Like, I'm gonna tell you right now, digging a hole this size, you'd be sweating buckets. That's already quite a hole. Right there. Ooh, we have $40. We have $40. But yeah, I think oftentimes movies turn out better when they involve, if they're based on a book, I think they always turn out better if the author is involved in the screenwriting process. That's my belief. Okay. Let's see. Let's up our inventory. We have $32 left. I'm not going to get the jetpack just yet. I'm going to wait on that. I don't think I need it right now. And I'll wait on the dynamite and the lamp as well. So let's just focus on here. Better shovel maybe? Let's try a better shovel. There we go. And we still have $2. We can recharge. Alright. Hey, here's your revenge for Frostpunk. Force Panda to play a game where you have to create a character. Oh, I have to tell you guys about that. So, a certain panda was, decided to start playing a certain Final Fantasy game. And we were on a Discord call, just chatting away. And I was like, but, you have to create your character. You have to. You know, when I made my character in Final Fantasy XIV, it took me like an hour. Because that's just who I am, right? I like making characters. And, but the problem was my internet was being a complete jerk. And so... I couldn't force him as completely as I wanted to. Yeah, he was lucky. He was really lucky. All right, let's see. I'm missing conversation here. Oh my God. Okay. Um, aspirations are way more basic in The Sims 2. But the problem is that I don't know if you can change them without using mods or cheats. I like that if a sim dies of old age, having completed their lifetime aspiration, you get hula dancing zombies, and the sim picks up a suitcase as if death is one big vacation. Oh, that is actually cute. I like that. I like that. Okay. And then I kind of can't vault an adaptation like The Hitchhiker's Guide. Maybe this actually got me to read the book. You know, I will say that I do appreciate movies that make me want to read the book. I had a point when I tried to read The Lord of the Rings. The first time I tried to read it, I could not get through it. So seeing the movie helped me want to read it, and I did read the whole thing. Tolkien's writing is not necessarily the easiest writing to read, so... Okay. Let's see. Okay. I watched the British TV series of Hitchhiker's Guide. I think I remember watching some of that. But yeah. I really like Hitchhiker's Guide. I like that it feels like you're getting this history of the end of the world, in a way. Yeah. Oh, what's here? Okay. Oh, battery critical. Okay, I really gotta get out of here. Alright. Zoop. Alright. We need more battery. Okay, I can't. Okay. The Sixth Doctor made a cameo in the original Hitchhiker's Guide. I did not realize that. Huh. That's actually quite interesting. Okay. I want to find fossils or something. This is lame. No, it's not lame. I'm actually really liking this. It's just so chill. It's even more chill than Power Wash Simulator. Alright, the movie was my first exposure to anything Douglas Adams. And again, I can't fault it for getting me into the lore. I even have audiobooks because of it. Yeah. I will respect if a movie is made well enough that it makes people interested in reading the book. I mean, they've done their job. You know, I will never fault that. Inventory full. Okay. Aspen trying to get me to use character creators is going to be like Toru trying to get Miss Kobayashi to eat her tail. You know what? Yeah. Yeah. He showed up on set and wanted to prank his wife, who's one of the main characters. So he got painted up and appears as one of the delicacies at the restaurant. Wow, I did not know that. That is so cool. I lost it during a shift when I heard the sounds of laundry detergent salesman. Okay. Alright. Yeah, my first Doctor, was it 6? I'm trying to remember in the Doctor Who series who my first one was. I think it might have been 6. But you see, you know, the human dragon family, we're all a bunch of nerds. I mean, we're really just nerdy people. You know, we like to watch Star Trek and Star Wars, and we do not discriminate. We like both. We like both Star Trek and Star Wars. Because both have legitimate things that make them good. And one is science fantasy and the other is science fiction. So they don't even need to be compared. You know what? I'm going to dig all this up and I'm going to put in a swimming pool. I think that makes sense. Eighth Doctor for you, Digi? The thing that I think is really sad is that there are entire episodes of Doctor Who from the very beginning that we will never see because the BBC, what they would do is they would tape over them. They would have like an episode on film and they would tape over it. So you would never ever see it again unless somebody else managed to salvage a recording somehow. I'm like, that is not okay. That is just not okay. Yeah, I don't want to dig too deep. The first time I saw Doctor Who and appreciated it, caught a 4th Doctor episode before I was old enough to like it, was the Fox movie. Yeah. I liked the revival of Doctor Who. I feel like people don't appreciate Christopher Eccleston. He was 9, correct? Whoa. Warning, you haven't saved. Alright, I'll save the game. I'll save. Yes. There you go. Are you pleased? I guess they are. Okay, let me charge my battery. Because I can. Okay. I liked Matt Smith's run. Matt Smith was pretty fun. I liked his goofy charm. And you can't go wrong with David Tennant. I mean, he did, you know, he's memorable. Very, very memorable. And they gave him some good storylines. I will say the biggest tearjerker episode for me of more recent Doctor Who was the Van Gogh episode. That episode makes me cry every single time. It is so good. I think there are some episodes of Doctor Who that were just they knew what they were doing and they wrote something really beautiful. But yeah, I think that's one of my favorite episodes of the more recent Doctor Who over the past, I don't know, I guess it's been like 2 decades or something since the revival of Doctor Who. But yeah, that episode always makes me cry because I think about, you know, there's so many artists out there of all kinds, not just like painters or you know, people who draw or people who make sculptures, but like also people who write stories that don't get seen and appreciated enough, or yeah, just all kinds of things. And like we all need to hear feedback that we're actually good at what we do. And a lot of times we don't hear that enough, you know, so we doubt ourselves. And you know, we're taught so often that we're just not good enough. And the reality is you don't have to be perfect to be good enough. As Panda can attest, as I often say, you don't have to be perfect, you just have to be perfectly yourself. You know, it is so important that instead of trying to be like everybody else, try to perfect who you are. Try to find the best way to be your best self. Not in comparison to other people, just, in comparison to your own self. I'm not a super competitive person. You would think playing games I would be, but at least not in the traditional sense. I'm not a super competitive person. What I am, though, is somebody who, I believe very strongly it's important to compete with myself to try to be the best version of myself I can. And, that's the kind of goal that you're never gonna run out of, ways to work on being a better you. But, I think it's important to have some humility. What's this? Oh, it's more iron. Okay. Now I was wrong. It's exactly 20 years. Oh my gosh, yeah. So it came out in 2005. That's crazy. But that sounds about right. That sounds about right. That's actually crazy to think about. 20 years of Doctor Who. And that was and that's not all the years of Doctor Who, because it first came out sometime in the 60s, if I recall correctly. Okay. So let's see. Oh yes, Digi, I will absolutely maybe once the stream is over, I'll take a look over on Blue Sky and see what your pictures are, because I have convention envy right now. Battery low. Okay. 20 years ago? That's totally 20 years ago. 1963. Okay, so didn't the X-Men comics also come out in 1963? The first X-Men comic came out in the 60s as well, I think. And it was part of the reason it came out was it was a commentary on civil rights, the civil rights movement. Oh, my battery's low. I forgot. The JFK assassination happened, and Doctor Who has had a few media that's tied to it. Ah, right. Right. Yep, 1963. Good year for fiction. I love, little factoids about, popular series that have been saved. I keep forgetting I need to charge my battery. Star Trek was saved by a write-in campaign done by housewives. That is why we have so much Star Trek today. We can thank Lucille Ball, and we can thank housewives. Seriously, if you ever get the chance, look up Big Finish's 1963 Doctor Who miniseries. I will try to keep that in mind. Okay. I think I need to stop going sideways and start going down a little bit. Okay. Boing. Alright. There we go. I have $79. I think everything else... Right, let's see. Okay, I'll up my inventory. Now everything else costs $100. Except for the jetpack, which I don't think I need yet. I think I'll only need the jetpack once I start digging myself so low that I can't get out. Okay, wouldn't it be something if this game makes you fill the hole after you find the treasure? Oh, geez. Yeah. But here's my question. So I'm digging here, and I'm getting deeper and deeper, but there's no pile of dirt outside of this hole. There is no pile of dirt. See? Look. No pile of dirt. That is unrealistic. Hi, we're back from vacation. I trust you took care of the house while you were... Oh my God! Oh, a rug over the hole. That could be fun. Alright. Battery's okay. Okay. It's kind of mesmerizing. It's just like these perfect little... Okay. Iron. Alright. Battery, I see. I see. Okay. Alright, I'm gonna go up now. I'm not completely crazy. Sell some stones. Or ores, rather. Get some battery. And we're good. Battery! I'm in danger. You know, there are a few characters... Oh, there's an object. Wait. Wait. Where? Where's the object? Where is it? I must know! Where is it? How do I tell? I'm like... Here. No. Okay. So it's definitely over here somewhere. Oh, here. Okay. It's somewhere over here, because... Oh, over here. Okay. Alright, let's get up here. Let's empty our inventory. The blue circles. The blue circles. Okay. Charge. Get a better shovel. Let's go. You must find the thing. The thing of things. Wait. What? Wait, what did I... Was that gold? Oh, there we go. Down here. There it is. Object. What is it? It's a money bag. Nice. Okay. It's not a lot of money, but hey. Okay. Oh. Okay. Well, of course it's the blue circles. Because blue is the best color. Jetpack. I might need the jetpack. Okay. I need the jetpack. That's fair. And I have $45. Should I get the upgrade? Was there a crime? That's... Yeah, why was there a random briefcase filled with money buried in the ground even though it had only 26 bucks in it? I mean, it can't have been a very big crime. Unless somebody was just, you know, saving up for it because they felt like it. Who knows? Okay. We're off to treasure. Let's see. Space. Ah, there we go. That's how it works. Boing. Okay. All right. So I bought Human Mother a welcome home cake. And I don't know. One of my things that I like to watch is YouTube videos of bakers decorating cakes. Apparently, in the cake decorating community, Walmart massively pissed off the cake baking community. Because what they did was they are making these $25 heart-shaped cakes. So $25 heart-shaped cakes. And in the baking community, this is a thing that making heart-shaped cakes, custom heart-shaped cakes, is some kind of big deal. And the fact that Walmart is selling them for 25 bucks is like, oh, it's sacrilege. So I was curious. So I took a look at what those what kind of heart-shaped cakes, I can speak English so well, are available at Walmart. I don't think bakers have anything to worry about. Walmart only has a very limited number of heart-shaped cakes available that they sell. Very limited. They are not custom, or they're not particularly customized. Like, you can't just go in and say, hey, I want a heart-shaped cake. I want it with this, this, that, and this, and this, and that. They have specific heart-shaped cakes that they make. So it's a very limited choice. And I'm going to tell you, like, you know, it is a Walmart cake. It's the decorating is not that precision, or, you know, it's not high quality. So, you know, like, oh, that's weird. It's just floating. Anyway, it's not going to be like groundbreakingly gorgeous cake design. So I don't think the bakers who are concerned about these $25 heart-shaped cakes have anything to worry about. If somebody wants a fancy heart-shaped cake, they can buy one. It's entirely possible to you know, go out and find someone to make a really nice custom cake. It's okay. The people who are going to buy the Walmart $25 heart-shaped cake, they're not going to be the kind of people who are going to afford or want to buy a super fancy custom one. That's just the reality. So they have nothing to worry about. I think their business is pretty secure. The Walmart heart-shaped cakes are not exciting. They're cute, I will say that. You know, but there's just not enough options for anybody to worry about. So yeah, I got a heart-shaped cake, and you know, it's cute. It's a heart-shaped cake. It has disco balls on the top, and I had them write "Welcome Home," and it's cute. It's just not amazing. Couldn't I make my own? I probably could. I could probably make my own cake, but I've while I am pretty good at arts and crafts, I'm not really good at decorating cakes. I get a little, like, nervous about decorating cakes. I'm always worried I'm gonna just completely mess up. So, but yeah, it's not like heart-shaped cakes are anything new. They've been around for a long time. Like, you know, people have been making those bunny-shaped cakes for years. You know, like, it's not anything new. So, you know, it's not a huge deal. I don't think it's something people need to worry about. People will still get plenty of business for beautiful custom heart-shaped cakes. And I've seen some cool videos of people making gorgeous heart-shaped cakes. You know, when you go to Walmart to buy a heart-shaped cake, you're getting pretty much the heart-shaped equivalent of a Walmart sheet cake. It's not going to be fancy. I only had 2 options for cake flavors: chocolate or vanilla. Only 2 options. Wait, come on. Oosh, oosh. That's why. Okay. I was pressing the wrong button. Okay, there we go. But yeah, like, you get what you pay for. I mean, that's just the reality. You get what you pay for, and if you're buying a cheap cake, you're gonna get a cheap cake. You can only get chocolate or vanilla. You have options of getting buttercream, or like a whipped buttercream for your frosting. You have, let's see, what else is there? You have the option of getting Bavarian cream or strawberry filling for an additional $3 each. I mean, it's really not a lot of options. So I just don't think people have anything to worry about. Walmart's not going to take over the, you know, heart-shaped cake thing from all the cool people who actually are really talented at making cakes. It'll be okay. All right. But yeah, I think it's cute that the cake came with little disco balls. I thought that was quite funny. Ad in 30 seconds, yes. When I take ad breaks, I try not to play games while I'm on the ad break, so I will stop. I might do a bathroom run. If you need to take a break, go for it. It'll be a 3-minute ad. So, and I just destroyed some ore. Whee! Okay, let's take a short break. Good idea, Digi. Okay, I will be right back. I am going to run downstairs to check on Human Mother and get some more water, and I will be back after the ads. Yay! We're digging up holes. There we go. There. We'll take a break. La 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 la. I mean, if I dug that whole thing up, I would have a pretty good sized swimming pool. Do do do. Do do do. Do 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 do. Egg. Off the ads! Yay! Woo! Okay. And boing. Oh, my battery's low already? Good God, man. So, I have been watching Star Trek Strange New Worlds. My wonderful boyfriend Panda let me use his Paramount Plus account. I've convinced you to buy this game? Awesome. Hey, people who made this game, I am good advertising for you. Just wanted to let you know. Anyway. I've been watching Strange New Worlds, the latest Star Trek series. And I really, really like it. It has a lot of what made classic Star Trek really fun and adventurous. You know, it feels like a bit more of a return to the more episodic nature of old Star Trek. Which, you know, while given... I like that Star Trek The Next Generation moved on from the episodic to, you know, starting to have storylines that lasted beyond, you know, an episode. But I also sometimes miss those, like, standalone episodes. I think it's really, really nice to have standalone episodes. Sometimes you just want to be able to focus on one story, you know? Oh, Mystic, you had it on your wish list. Ah, okay. Yeah, this is a nice game. Like, I can imagine just, like, on a day where I just need to chill out and not have to think too hard. And just want to play a game that doesn't require a ridiculous amount of strategy. Like, this is a good game for that. It's just chill and satisfying. Look at all those stones. Those pretty, pretty stones. Okay, I should focus on going down. Inventory full. Is my inventory full, or am I an inventory full? I am a fool for inventory. Okay. Sometimes serialization works in shows, sometimes it doesn't. Right. You make money off the stones. You don't need treasure. I mean, look, we've already upgraded the shovel several times. We've been upgrading the inventory. Just upgrading the battery. Like, we're good here. We're getting a lot of stuff done. We are going to have the best equipment ever. But yeah, like, I like a good serialized show. As long as it isn't super long. I think that's kind of some of the struggle we have with some of the longer anime series. It's just that after a while it's like I kind of need this to end because I can't keep up. Although I think One Piece will never end. I am fully convinced that One Piece will never ever end. It will go on forever. It will outlive all of us. That's just how it is. One Piece will outlive us. It will outlive us all. But, that said, you know the Voyager two-parter year of hell, that was supposed to be a whole season? I remember that. I remember hearing about that. That was supposed to be an entire season. But I think, what was it that was going on? I think they were trying to end the series itself sooner. If I recall correctly, there was some reason why they did it that way. But I think the times when serialization kind of worked better in Star Trek was with Deep Space Nine. Was when it really worked well. They did have standalone episodes, but there was, when the series started, it had enough to tell a cohesive long-term story with the whole emissary thing. They had enough to do that, and it was worthwhile for them to do that. I think I'm going to get the jetpack upgrade. There we go. And battery. There we go. But yeah, essentially, you know, I do like that Strange New Worlds has that more slightly episodic quality. Although it does have some continuity stuff. It still feels kind of like it's fitting that old school Star Trek vibe. And that does not hurt. I also like the characters. I like the characters a lot. Wait, how much do I have? 74. Oh, I'm not really going to be able to buy anything yet. Early DSi related a lot on TNG cameos. True. Fair enough. But I will say this, with DS9, it made sense to have TNG cameos because they take place at the same time. So, you know, it makes sense. Like, logically it makes sense. I will always be grateful that it gave O'Brien more story time. I always liked O'Brien. I've always thought he was just a fun character and really likable. Just the common everyday engineering dude. You gotta like O'Brien. There we go. Anything else we can buy? Can we buy things? I am reinvesting in my professional career. Look, we filled up the battery. We have $5 left. We did it. UPN thought viewers would get past that. A whole season never happened. Yeah. Yeah. Deep Space Nine and TNG were pretty. They were paired. Essentially, they were pairs. I mean, and they were filmed at the same time, so you know, it makes sense. Now, I feel like I will say this: when Deep Space Nine and Babylon 5 came out, I did watch some Babylon 5 at the beginning, and then I just got more focused on Deep Space Nine, so I watched that more. And I think I made a mistake of not watching all of Babylon 5, and I think that's a series I need to go back to. I will say that. Sell. Star Trek indigestion. Oh, good. You're. You know, Digi. I think that's awesome. Like, if I had, so I do not lie about this. Panda can verify. I have only a flip phone. I do not own a smartphone. If I wanted to go for a walk and watch somebody stream, I would not be able to do that. I would not at all be able to do that. Because I just have a little flip phone. I have little fox stickers on it. That's about all I'm getting out of that flip phone right now. I can text poorly, and I can get phone calls, and I use it as an alarm clock to remind me to take my vitamins. That's about it. That is just about it. High in the sky. Alright, come on. I need something new. Come on, give me something interesting here. I found copper. Ooh. I mean, this really does feel like it's Minecraft, except you don't craft anything. Minecraft. It's non-square Minecraft. Ah, Babylon 5 is on Tubi. I will check that out. Yes. I love Tubi. Tubi's great. Tubi often has stuff on it that I really want to see. Which is crazy because there's so many new streaming apps out. And some of them I'm like, did I just hurt myself? Oh my god. Maybe I should be more careful. Okay. This is going to be my deep part. I broke my ankles! Hey, LT! How you doing? It's good to see you. It's been a little while. You've been busy, I know. I'm actually kind of surprised. Like things have been kind of crazy lately, and to have so many people show up and stream and be really active talking is a surprise to me. I was like, I'm not sure how many people are going to show up today because I know I haven't been able to stream as consistently. But it's nice to have people here. It's always nice to see people and, you know, talk with y'all. All right. Good. Well, I know, LT, I know you were in school. So, you know, I never will hold it against anybody if they, you know, if they're in school, if you're in school and you can't watch streams because you have to study or do homework or something, like, I am not going to be upset with you, ever. Like, I've been through it. I have been through it. I have a master's degree, so I have absolutely been through it. So, you know, I am not going to be upset with somebody if they don't show up for every single stream. You got to do what you got to do. And if you're going to spend that much money to go to school, then, you know, you should probably, you know, take your classes and take advantage of that. What is going on down here? This is interesting. Is this something underneath here? What is this? There's like a big something here. What is this? Do you see what I see? Like, I can't... I have to kind of dig around it. Is that an eyeball? What did I just find? What is this? Uh-oh. Wait. Uh-oh. Wait. Uh-oh. Can I get out of here? What did I find? Am I stuck? Oh, shoot. Okay, let's see. Okay, I'm gonna have to make some stairs. I think. Oh, dear. Oh, no. Oh, help. Help! Can I? Oh my gosh. Ah! I got it out! I got it out! Ah! I survived. Okay. Alright. Maybe I won't dig that low. Maybe I'll dig sideways for a little bit. I think I should do that. I will dig sideways. How far down was that? Okay. Let's try doing this. Let's try doing this way. We'll be a little shallow for a little while. We'll do some shallow digging. We'll dig with precision and thought and consideration here, because I don't want to get stuck down there. Okay, so we've got kind of like a shallow area here. Let's go a little further down. Okay. All right, let's think about this. Let's think creatively. I probably want to upgrade my jetpack. So, you know, we'll gather a few stones, you know. We'll get a few things. We'll be smart. Okay. I guess there is some strategy here. Okay, so we need 300, so we need 148. Okay. All right. $151 in order to buy the jetpack upgrade. So, let's just, you know. Okay. Let's go sideways. Let's continue sideways. Bonk. Bonk. Okay. There we go. So yeah, I'm kind of glad that my life feels like it's going a little bit back to normal. With human mother being back home. You know, she drives me crazy sometimes, but I love her too much to be driven too crazy by her. Secret tunnel! Whee! You know, like, I wouldn't really want to be, like, stuck in a really deep cave that I couldn't get out of. But I think there's such an appeal to, like, digging a hole and making a tunnel. I don't know. Maybe it's all those times as a kid playing in the dirt or in sandboxes that we all do, like, and, you know, making sand castles and trying to dig little pathways underneath them and have, like, secret little places to put little green army men or something, and have them, like, sabotage the castle. And, you know, I think there's a lot of fun to just, you know, having secret passages. And I think one of the easiest ways a kid can make secret passages is when digging holes. Yeah, the little green army men. Those are just classic toys. Okay. All right. Alright, that's our weird hole. Okay. So... Alright, so that's at the bottom. I think I want to make like some kind of perch here that's easy to make a little landing or something. Okay. Battery low. We'll take care of that. 211. Okay. Fill up on battery. So we've got to get about $200 more. Yeah, the green army men are pretty cool. I always liked when I found ones that were kind of different from the usual ones. I guess, you know, maybe that gets into the appeal too of like little D&D miniatures or like Warhammer miniatures and stuff like that. It's like the green army men but fancy. When I was a kid, before I would go to sleep, I would, you know, I'd be in my cozy bed, and I would just imagine stories in my head. Obviously, you know, kids who like to read usually have stories that they think about in their head. And one of the things I always used to imagine was that there's a whole world underneath my bed. And if I climbed underneath my bed, I would be in like a place like Narnia. And there'd be all kinds of like cool, like mythological and fantasy creatures. And that I would like, you know, when I would go to sleep, I'd actually just, instead of falling asleep, what would happen is the creatures who would live in that alternate reality under my bed would come and get me every night. And all my dreams were actual things that happened to me on adventures in that world under my bed. And now that tells you exactly what kind of weird kid I was. I had way too much imagination. But I always loved thinking that way. Like, what would it be like if there was something like that underneath my bed? Okay, just looked up something about the game. Would you like to know? It's a spoiler, but involves why you stopped playing certain games. You mean Digi, you looked up something about this game? Interesting. You had over a trillion of each color of army men. Nice. Nice, LT. Foxy, when I was a kid, I thought if I wasn't completely covered up while sleeping, I'd be snatched by monsters. You know, it's funny you say that. I had a lot of nightmares growing up. I was the child of nightmares. But anyway, what I would do, I got so used to sleeping with my blanket over my head with just my face sticking out that even as an adult, I still prefer to sleep with my body completely covered with just my head sticking out. I mean, sometimes I can still sleep okay if that's not the case, but I just tend to prefer sleeping with my head sticking out only, or my face sticking out, not even my entire head. I also had a cat who used to sleep next to me at night when I was a kid. And I think that's why when I sleep, I usually, once I'm actually asleep, I'm pretty still. There's floating dirt. Floating dirt. That's why I sleep in a Duna cover to this day. But yeah, my cat used to sleep right next to me, right by my stomach when I was a little kid. And so I learned to just not move when I slept. So yeah, once I'm asleep, I do not move. I absolutely do not move. I am like the dead. I stopped doing that when I overheated a lot, especially in the summer. Okay, is the heads up important, Digi? Because if it is, I don't mind. You can tell me. I feel like there might be like a UFO underneath all this dirt, though. I don't know. Actually, let me ask ask chat, or Digi, if you want to send me the spoiler, you can send it to me on Discord. Okay. I'm not gonna say how, but it looks like you're playing a stealth horror game. I do not mind that. I think that'll be okay. I think the way this game is, I don't mind. I mean, if a house costs that little money, there's probably something bad that comes with it. That's all I'm saying. Okay, let's not spoil the game in chat. But if there is something you do want to tell me, you can tell me over Discord. That way we'll make sure that it doesn't ruin anything for anybody. All right, I'm going to get further jetpacked. I'm going to charge my battery, and we'll keep going. Here, so let's see. Boop, 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 boop. Okay. All right. Let's go. Let's go. Never mind then, you said you stopped playing horror. Oh, okay. All right. No, I appreciate that. Yeah, and it's just the temporary anxiety I've been dealing with from this medication I was on. But it's temporary. It's not going to last forever. So yeah. fortunately. One thing that I've been finding has helped me is I have been using ashwagandha gummies. Because ashwagandha is really good for stress and anxiety. And it's working very well for me. The very day I started taking the ashwagandha, I stopped having like heart palpitations. So that seems to be working for me, and I think it's taking the edge off of the anxiety from the medication. So I'm pretty certain it's going to be pretty temporary. Okay, I really want to know what this is. It looks like there's an eyeball. All right. And if that is an eyeball, then you know what? Maybe that's the horror of the game. Maybe it's all about like setting free Lovecraftian monsters. Maybe that's what this game is all about, really. I've seen the game. I'm not sure if it's anything to worry about at the moment. Okay. When I was a kid, I thought I was a ninja because every time I turn off the lights, I'd appear in a different spot. Oh, I should save the game. All right. Save the game. Yes. All right. Let's go. I can't believe how wide I've made this hole. Yeah, I just want to know what this is. This thing below me is. When I was a kid, I was everything under the sun, from a Ghostbuster to a Ninja Turtle. Yeah, I mean, who doesn't want to imagine themselves as like, you know, the characters they see on TV or in movies? See, well before, you know, because I'm an old dragon, well before Disney's Little Mermaid came out, I remember reading the old original Little Mermaid. And that is not a happy ending. That is not a happy ending in any way, shape, or form. It's a very sad story. And, ooh, look. Oh, hang on. This is interesting. Maybe it is a swimming pool. Maybe it was once a swimming pool. Because, like, look at that. It's a good shape for a swimming pool. But yeah, I love reading old fairy tales that haven't been Disney-fied, because then you get to see how people used to think about storytelling back then. And storytelling was a very different thing back when some of these fairy tales first came out. Okay, I am pretty sure right now that this already was a swimming pool. Because look, like it has... Huh. This is really interesting. Okay. Now I feel like this is set up like, you know, when you go Easter egg hunting as a kid. Okay. Alright. I even have the toy proton pack. Oh, the proton pack. Yeah, somehow my mom found a Christmas gift set of hot cocoa mixes in the middle of May. So what flavor should I have first? Oh! Ooh, gingerbread sounds good. But that's me. I like spicy. I love ginger. Yeah, OG Rapunzel is horrible. And Sleeping Beauty is even worse. Like, oh my god. The original Sleeping Beauty was absolutely awful. I mean, like old school fairy tales were more like horror stories. Grimm's Fairy Tale Classics episode of Rapunzel. I have not. Okay. Not gonna lie, I don't like how modern shows dumb things down too much for kids. It's because it gets in the way. It gets way too oversimplified in the original messaging that may not be there anymore. I think you have a really good point. A lot of these, you know, yeah, I think they miss the point a lot. Like, you know, the original Beauty and the Beast was really just written to encourage young women that, you know, these old men that their parents are marrying them off to maybe aren't such bad guys after all, even if they're older and ugly. Like, you know, people say all this stuff about, oh no, Beauty and the Beast is about, what's it called? Of course, my brain is totally missing the phrase. See, that's the part when you have a really big vocabulary that gets frustrating, is your vocabulary is so big that sometimes 12 other words pop into your head, and you can't think of the actual term you want. Alright, I love Puss in Boots: The Last Wish because its messaging is clear and easy to understand. And what I find amazing is that nowadays stories like Frankenstein or Dracula are old enough to be considered fairy tales. Right. Okay, they aired on Nick Jr. They kept everything in. Oh, from the original. Yeah. Okay. This is interesting. Okay. I'm curious about what's in the side right now. I'm actually more curious about, like, why is this big hole surrounded by bricks on the side? I mean, maybe it's nothing, you know? Maybe I'm just overthinking it here, but, like, that's not... Usually there's not that much of a lining around a... What is that? Huh. Okay. This is very interesting. Now I'm like kind of wondering about like how this game was made. Like how did they program it and why did they program it the way they did? Yeah, could just be part of them, you know, how they made the game. Like, you know, they made it simplified by having the bricks go over the side. But it feels like it's kind of mysterious. Okay. So tomorrow I should have a new manuscript to do some editing on for an author, which will be kind of neat. I read the original story, or the original manuscript, but I haven't had a chance to do any editing on it yet, so I don't know. Editing's kind of fun sometimes, because then the whole process with being able to edit somebody else's books that they wrote. You kind of get to see how they think, and helping them make it something that they can actually, like I always tell people, the first draft a writer writes is for the writer. But every draft after that is for other people to be able to read the story and enjoy the story. Okay. Whee. Okay. Alright, I want to tell both anime versions of Frankenstein and Dracula just to see everyone's reaction. Which does everyone want to hear first? Frankenstein. Frankenstein, absolutely. I like Frankenstein. Considering they're both written around the same time, I think it's, they're interesting stories to compare. So yeah, Foxy. So, you're a little more on the newer side around here. So I actually am a published author. And what I will tell you about writing is that, it took me years to get to the point where I actually finished an entire manuscript for a novel. I'd always wanted to do it, but I just never was able to finish a manuscript. And then it just happened. Like, I had this period of time where I was just, all of a sudden I just got really focused, and I ended up writing a manuscript. Not my best writing, but I did it, and I got to the end. And I think once you get to the end of your first writing piece that's novel length, that's when you feel like, oh, I can actually do this. So it's kind of a neat thing to experience. But I think, people who do art have similar experiences to that. Like when you finally are able to do shadowing really well, or forced perspective, when you get it right that first time, like it's kind of exciting. All right. Okay, so the anime version of Frankenstein decided, well, Victor von Frankenstein isn't humane enough for the story. So enter his niece, who gets to be part of the whole thing. Of course, this is Victor Frankenstein from the book, so a bit of a asshole, yeah. The little girl gets to see her uncle bring back the dead, then it gets crazy. Interesting. Okay. The usual happens: village, torches, pitchforks, and guns. Okay. Okay, such gun users had perfect aim that they were able to put 2 bullets in the monster, 1 on each hand. Oh, I think I saw a bit of anime Frankenstein. Alright. So he goes to hide in a church. There he sees Jesus on the cross and looks at Jesus on the cross and sees Jesus' hands. Oh dear. Oh dear. Then looks down at his own hands, and does he think he's Jesus? He's Jesus resurrected? They killed Jesus. They killed Jesus. Oh no. Wait. Is that just grass? I thought I saw like an emerald. Okay, that one's not coming loose. Well, he doesn't say me, Jesus, but the face expression says it all. Fast forward to the ending where they decide not to follow the book or the movie. Okay. Yeah, I think it was just grass too. I think you're right, Foxy. Let's just charge. Let's just charge. Might as well. The monster, realizing there's no place for him and his existence is causing his niece trauma, so he jumps off a cliff right in front of his niece? Like that won't give her more trauma? Are you kidding me? Ugh. Whose brilliant idea was that? Poor kid. Uncle Frankie just got killed. He just died because he was miserable. And nobody treated him right. Why am I... Oh. I injured myself. I squished my Wookiee. The monster realizing that... Okay. Victor realizing he sinned... So, alright, so the monster jumps off a cliff, and then Victor... Frankenstein... Ay. I do not know. Okay. Alright. That's horrible. What did they do to Dracula? Oh, no, that did come loose. Okay. Dracula is the more insane one. Yeah. I know I did read Dracula, like the original story, and I read the original Phantom of the Opera, which is not the romance story that it's presented as in the musical. It really is, the original Phantom is definitely more of a horror story than a romance. Okay. Okay. First, the adaptation of not the novel, but the Marvel comic. Okay. Second, at one point, Satanists get involved. Dracula winds up in modern-day New York City via the Boston International Airport, where he encounters his reincarnated wife, who just happened to be the sacrificial... What? What? Who happened to be the sacrificial body for the local satanic club? Okay. Interesting. Here, let's up the battery. He jumps in, grabs the wife, and Party does the rational thing. Party to Dracula. Hail Satan, no Dark One. Yes, they mistake Dracula for Satan before Dracula pimps out with his wife. So weird. That is very strange. Uh-oh. I ended up down here again. Uh-oh. Okay, I can float it. Okay. Alright. We're good. Okay. Dracula? Wait, what? I missed something here. Then comes the most infamous moment in the anime. At one point, somehow, Dracula's turned human and is hungry for normal food, but is flat broke. So he goes to New York. He does the New York thing. Mugs the guy, goes to McDonald's, eats a Big Mac. Of course he... What? Oh, God. That's absolute just... They just want to mangle the entire thing, don't they? You know what that sounds like? That sounds like somebody using AI to write Dracula. That's what that sounds like to me. Somebody trying to use AI to write Dracula and failing miserably. Okay, battery is too low. Whee! Well, during this time, he's followed by vampire hunters, one of them being the descendant of Van Helsing, of course. The image of Dracula mugging some random guy and then going to... Yeah, they see Dracula as human. Dracula, the guy who is based on Vlad the Impaler, with a bigger body count. Then they come to the one conclusion, now that the immortal enemy is human, we can't kill him now! He's human! What? I don't know. Anyway. That's quite some fan fiction there. Yeah. Okay. Alright. Okay, anime Dracula. It's fine. Mingo classic writing. It's okay. It's in the public domain. It's fine. Absolutely fine. Oh, we're on an ad break now. Okay. Real and... This horrible and immortal being who did unspeakable acts of violence is now forgiven and cannot be killed because he's human now! Okay. Hang on a sec. See, now I'm trying to find it. And what happens? I get Castlevania. I'm trying to find it. Ah, I think I found it. It's called... Okay. It's called Tomb of Dracula. I think that's what it is. Yes, it says, I'm reading an article. It says, I've mentioned before that Marvel's long-running Tomb of Dracula comic by Marv Wolfman and Gene Colan features my favorite version of the Lord of all Vampires, and reading through the series, I remember thinking that would be a great source for a TV or movie adaptation. Little did I know that that had already happened in Japan, thanks to a feature-length anime special in 1980 called Dracula, Sovereign of the Damned, which largely centered around Dracula stealing the girlfriend of the actual devil and trying to keep Satan himself from getting laid. Okay, now I know what it's called. Now I know what it's called. Okay. Alright. Okay. Alright. I'll have to watch it sometime. Okay. Yeah, you know, it's interesting. I have a lot of feelings about interpreting classics. So I am not against... Ouch. I'm not against... you know, books being translated into different, you know, like, I don't mind adaptation. I do not mind it at all. I do not mind making a film different from the book, because the reality is a film is a different medium than a book. So there are things that are going to work in books that don't work in movies. And there are things that work well in movies that don't work well in books. And that's fine. Like, I expect that. And I accept it. So I don't mind when I, like... See, I can't even dig on that. Okay. I don't mind when movies aren't book accurate. I think it's okay. What I do mind is if it's a bad interpretation of it. And sometimes bad interpretations are actually really fun. But sometimes they're just bad. Okay, how are we doing with batteries here? And I'll heal myself. There we go. Okay. So I will take a look at those digi. I will absolutely take a look at that. And it's telling me I haven't saved the game for 30 minutes. Again. Okay. Yes, save the game. Oh, so, all right. So I don't know how many people here are into like more like classic, like 60s, 70s rock. But did you hear that they found the bust of Van Morrison? No, Jim Morrison, not Van Morrison. That's another singer. Jim Morrison on that was originally on his grave that had been stolen. I thought that was very interesting that they actually found it. But the article that I read said nothing about where it was found. You know, why it was there. There was nothing. I'm like, come on, you gotta give us something. You gotta give us something. Ooh, what's that? Okay. They gotta give us something to work with. Okay. Zoom. Okay. Let's see. I mean, hell, look at almost every adaptation of Junji Ito's work. Yeah. Bad interpretations can just flanderize the entire story, as well as to the point of the adaptation being useless. Yeah. But yeah, that article I read, it didn't say if somebody turned it in, didn't say who had it, just said it was found. And they put it back on his grave. Okay, so Mystic, you've actually visited his grave. That is pretty cool. That's actually pretty wild. I know there's some other famous people who are buried in that same cemetery. It's in Paris, I believe, if I recall correctly. But there's a lot of famous people buried in that cemetery. But yeah, this article just did not say anything. I'm going to have to look at that. I do not have... Tomorrow, I do not have to work. So maybe I'll do some oops, I forgot to sell my inventory. Maybe I'll have to do some investigation. Some online investigation. We'll just charge the battery because we can. And we'll keep going. I have no idea what I've done with this game. Like, I've seen a lot of people play it and they just go down. I'm going sideways. I'm definitely going sideways. Oh, wait. Interesting. Anyway, yeah, it's so interesting to see how people reinterpret stories. Like, I think I mentioned this. Was it another stream I did? I was talking about, yes, it was the last stream I did. We were talking about anime, and I was talking about how I used to rent videos from a store that had a bunch of, like, unusual, older anime movies. And one of them was The Sea Prince and the Fire Child, which is essentially Romeo and Juliet. And frankly, I think it's a much better story than Romeo and Juliet. And I think they did a really good job of telling that story. But, I'm sorry. I just thought I saw something flash on the screen, and now I'm thinking maybe this is more of a horror story than it looks. But, you know, sometimes you can find some really good interpretations of stories by, you know, telling them in a different way than they're usually told. Like, let's be real. The Lion King is Hamlet. I mean, that's really what it is. It's Hamlet. Although some people do argue that it's actually based on the Japanese movie, Kimba, the White Lion, if anybody knows that story. But I don't think it's actually, the story is actually resembles it at all, if I recall correctly. Okay. Ah, yes. Vincent van Gogh, Père Lachaise, Sukuna is the biggest menace. Père Lachaise has so many celebrity graves and tombs. Ah, yes, the first rule of Minecraft, don't dig straight down, dig sideways. Yep. In line, yep, it's basically a necropolis of the arts, if I recall correctly. And one of my great relatives, either grandma or great aunt of one generation or another, is buried there because she was an artist too. Interesting. Yeah. Huh. There we go. Okay. Also, if I had a nickel for every animated movie that was an adaptation of Shakespeare with a soundtrack by or featuring Elton John, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but yeah, it's kind of an interesting coinky-dink there. I mean, given Elton John can write a song, for sure. But sometimes, like, I feel like, especially with Disney, they get a little too reliant on certain performers, and it's like, just chill. Like, give other people a chance, please. We need more than just the same, like, stable of 20 actors. Now, look at this. Look. Interesting there. Can I go through there? Oh, I can. So I can go underneath. Ooh. Maybe we can dig a hole into the house. Ooh. Ah, okay. Maybe we can dig a hole into the house. Interesting. Platypus noises. Okay, there is something down there. Okay. There is stuff going on down there. I don't know what it is. But there's definite bubbles. Huh. Interesting. Interesting. Perry the Platypus. I mean, look at how many movies with Lin-Manuel Miranda as the lead songwriter there have been there now. Yeah. And he's certainly not the only person who can write a good musical. And that's not to say, like, Lin-Manuel Miranda, like, good on him for all the success he has. But, like, there are more stories to tell, and they don't have to all be told by the same one person. Like, certainly, like, I have a few book series on my shelf, you know, but sometimes it's nice to read something that isn't by all of the exact same people. Like, sometimes you want to read something different. Sometimes you want a different point of view. And I think that's worthwhile. okay. Yeah, I will look out for the Balrog, Mac. I will definitely look out for whatever Balrog there's. Oh, look at how much I dug. It has been 2 hours of stream. Look at all this. Look at what I've done. This is crazy. And all I found was a bag with $26 in it. Read an in-depth story about an egg. Oh, that reminds me of that anime. It's a weird anime that came out in like the 60s or 70s about an egg. I think it's called The Egg or something. It's a really like surreal animated movie. I've watched it once. But it's worth watching. Yeah, no, it's called The Angel? The Angel Egg? The Angel? Hang on. Let me look it up real quick. Oh, wow. Hans Zimmer is the GOAT. Yeah. Let me see. What is that anime? The Angel's Egg. That's what it's called. It was made in 1985. It's a very interesting movie. It's very kind of surreal. But it's beautifully animated. I think, yeah, it was, the art was done by Yoshitaka Amano, who did Vampire Hunter D. And, yeah, it's worth watching. It's very, very surreal and very strange. But yeah, it's about an egg. No, dig up, stupid. Yeah, it does feel kind of like a weird ant farm. Or something weird, anyway. But I can definitely put a swimming pool in there. Do 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 do. Uh-oh. Yeah, maybe I should be a little more careful. Did I mean to switch scenes? Oh! I did not. I am so sorry. There we go. I don't know why the chat screen came up. Maybe when I clicked on the screen to get to the, to look up the Angel's Egg, I accidentally clicked on the, just chatting screen. I know. I think being a VTuber is just automatically being a victim of scuff, just in general. But that's okay. It's the price for being a streamer. You always have some scuff. I don't know why there aren't any fossils, though. I want fossils, damn it! Ba-ding. 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 Oh, so Digi, you're already working on reviewing all the anime you bought. Nice. Nice. And you said that you were going to post that on your Blue Sky account, correct? I think that's what you mentioned last time I spoke with you about it. Or last time that was during the stream that I had last, when we were talking about all the different anime. But I think I recall you saying that you like to do reviews, and you're gonna post them. That you used to post them on Twitter, but you're gonna do on Blue Sky as well. Okay. Is there a digging song? I don't know any digging songs. I feel like there should be a digging song. I like to dig, 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 dig. I guess. Whee! Boing! So the inventory. So the inventory. Ooh, can I? What if I flew? Oh! What? Oh! Okay, I'm standing on the table. Interesting. Can I fly over the house? Can I fly up here? Nope. Can I fly up here? Not really. It won't let me stay up there. Okay. Nobody can accuse me of being afraid of being a very thorough worker. I mean, I'm digging a lot here. Can ya dig it? Okay. Alright, over the next few weeks, it's like this. Digimon Sundays, Lupin Mondays, Gundam Tuesdays, Whatever Wednesday, Fairy Tale Thursday, and Kamen Rider Black RX Fridays. Save for days of the last drive-in. Okay. Zoom. Okay, what do we need to buy here? Okay, so we could get shovel upgrade, inventory upgrade. I'm gonna wait until I have a little bit more because I'm, you know, I do need to fill up my battery. Save game, yes. Okay. Yeah, I think I'll do inventory next. Yeah, I wonder how deep the fence goes to. Been doing it around 11:15 Eastern, 10:15 Central. Okay. I'll keep my eyes open for that Digi. I think sometimes it's kind of hard because there's so much anime out there. Like, there is a ridiculous amount of anime. No one person can ever watch every single anime series that's out there. It's just, you know, it's just like how there's no one person can read every single book. You can try, though. But I appreciate having people who I think have pretty decent taste and their takes on different anime. Now, it's nice to have like a little bit of a guide to what to watch next, because sometimes it's hard to parse through all the anime and find the good stuff. And sometimes there's like a lot of good stuff, but it's not always, you know, you kind of have to pick and choose between the good stuff. Alright, Digi, how do you hold yourself to schedules like that? Asking as an AUDHDer who can't control my hyperfixation with The Sims unless I have my support worker or someone else to body double with me. Yeah. I get it. You know, there's only so much. We only have so much time. And then, you know, sometimes, like, you just have something that's like a comfort watch. And then you realize, you know, I'm missing out on stuff because I'm going back to my comfort watch. And it's like, but, you know, Maybe I need to watch my comfort watch. Maybe I need to watch My Roommate is a Cat again, you know? Sometimes you need to watch your comfort watch. And yes, My Roommate is a Cat is definitely a comfort watch of mine, as well as Barakamon, because it's good. And it makes me laugh. But it's also a good story. And then sometimes there are animes that I watch because they're so bad they make me laugh. Like Brothers Conflict. I've watched that way too many times. It is, yeah. I'll just say that. It's yeah, it's anime. I'll just say that. I think Brothers Conflict is actually based on an otome game. But yeah, I've watched it a few times. It's an interesting anime. Okay, let's see. I have that because I don't want to burn through what I bought right away. That makes sense, having a schedule. You want to enjoy things and not just, you know, not just consume it all at once and then be like, oh, well, yeah, I read that too fast. Or I watched that too quickly. Okay. Oh, I have it like, okay. I mainly do the reviews for both comedy and to inform anime fans if they're worth it or not. Yeah. Anime is an expensive hobby, especially these days, and if I bought Sword Art online blindly and it was $50, I'd be mad. Yeah. Thing is, you can watch SOA pretty much anywhere. Like, luckily, it's streaming pretty much anywhere. It's not something to worry about. SOA has gotten its screen time. It's done its thing. I think here's my feelings about Sword Art Online. I think there are people who complain and say that it's really, really bad. And personally, I don't think it's really, like, I mean, it has some dumb stuff, given. But I think it's a good, like, for people who are new to anime, it's, like, fine. You know, watch some Sword Art Online. It's okay. But when you're somebody who is not new to anime, like, you know that it's pretty cliche. So sometimes it's actually, you know, you don't need to watch that if you're somebody who's watched enough anime that, you know, you know what it is. And there are other animes that might have done a little better. Yeah, but it's preference. It's definitely preference. So, you know, like, I'm like, yeah, okay, I've watched Sword Art Online. I have watched it. I'm like, it's okay. It does its thing. It's fine. But, you know, there's a lot of different animes, and it's worth not watching all the same anime or all the same genre of anime because, you know, unlike in a lot of Western countries that decide cartoons are for kids, Japan decided that that was not the case. And so you get some really interesting genres in anime that you don't get in a lot of Western stuff. Yeah, was it Hack Sign or something? It was the anime that came before it that had kind of a similar concept to Sword Art Online, I think. I haven't seen that one, but I remember somebody talking with me about that. I can't remember who. Yep. Okay. Right. Yeah. You know, I really think, I think judging people by their anime preferences is really silly. Like, it just doesn't make much sense to me. Like, why? You know, just let people enjoy what they enjoy. As long as it doesn't hurt. And I'll say this many times. As long as it doesn't hurt anybody, who cares? Like, you know, I'm the kind of person who likes to read classic books. Like, I like to read Jane Austen. You know, I like to read the Bronte sisters. But, you know what? Sometimes I'll read a stupid, trashy romance novel just because it's there. And that's fine. Like, you don't have to... You don't have to just stick to what's considered critically good. And sometimes it's good to not stick with what's considered critically good. Because sometimes you'll find things you like that other people don't. And sometimes there are things that are critically good that nobody knows about. Like, one of my favorite movies is The Red Violin. I think it's an incredible movie. It has a wonderful cast. I'm trying to remember who's in it. Sandra Oh, I think, is in it. I think it's, is it Lawrence? No, it's not Lawrence Fishburne. It's a really, really good movie. And I love it. And a lot of people don't know about the movie at all. And I'm like, but it's so good. And it's one of my favorites. And people will be like, no, I've never heard of it. And, you know, that's okay, you know? And it is a critically acclaimed movie. It's just that not a lot of people have necessarily seen it, and that's fine. Okay. Yeah. You know, yeah, you're right, Mystic. I love me some Black Butler. I love Black Butler. But yeah. Yeah, and we can like the stuff that's like, you know, the fast food of anime or the fast food of superhero movies or whatever. It's okay to like those things. You know, like I hate it when people are like, "Oh, but, you know, I like this thing, but it's basic." And I'm like, maybe sometimes things are basic because they're good. Or they're likable, or they're decent enough, you know? That's fine. There's nothing wrong with something being basic. You know, some people might say liking Lord of the Rings is basic. And it's like, you know, but maybe it's because Lord of the Rings is good. Wait. Does this game have worms? Does this game have worms? Is that the existential horror of this game? Are we going to turn into a worm? And then we're going to be like, well, you still love me if I'm a worm? No. Okay. No worms. Zoom. Okay. Now here's the thing about We have worm sign. No, not really. Just had to say it. Worm sign. The problem I have is that I can see clips from some anime or another and get addicted to the theme tunes, but by the time I'm ready to even think about watching it, I hear from other YouTubers, oh shit, this anime that was really good has an ending that sucks, and I'm like, damn it. Like, if you turn into a worm or if you're always a worm. I guess turned into a worm. Foxy. Ninja robots. But, yeah, like, it's okay to like things that are, you know, not high class. You don't have to be some kind of snob about everything. It's okay. How did I end up like this? How did I end up like this? I feel like I'm just like, this game is gonna... It's so easy to just keep playing this game. Like, it's so easy to keep going. They have just enough stuff so that when you dig, it's like, oh, I need to keep digging so I can get that stone. Oh, look, there's some coal. Oh, look, there's some iron. Okay. I wonder if... Okay, I'm going to do this. I'm just going to walk around a little bit. Ah, okay. So yeah, I think there are tunnels. I think there might be something. Okay. Interesting. So, can I, like, find some actual money? Like, can I find actual treasure in this game? Because I'm not finding much. Okay. I don't want to watch something and get invested if the ending is going to leave me dissatisfied. Yeah, you could all, you know, it might be good. You might be able to get me normal again. Although I don't know what normal actually is. I feel like I've never quite been the most normal person in the world. Although, and that's crazy to say because there's this test you can take called the Aspen test. I actually shared it with Panda. And I took it and I'm like, oh my god, I am the most neurotypical person. I'm like, how did that happen? I do not come from a family of neurotypical people. And I tend to get along so well with my non-neurotypical friends. Like, I'm like, oh my gosh, I love them. So, I don't know. Maybe there's something else in me that's a little unusual. I'm not sure. Oop. Whee. Normal is overrated. Normal is entirely overrated. Even if the ending is tragic, I want to feel like an actual ending and not just we ran out of ideas. I agree with that wholeheartedly. Give me an ending. Give me a good ending. Like, I want the journey, I want the quest to have an ending worthy of the quest. Oh, I forgot to refill my battery. Hang on. Let's take care of that battery. Battery! I can't believe I did all of that. That is crazy. I feel like there's gonna be a sandworm. Yeah, I think I'm the token neurotypical. I'm not sure how that happened. Like, my brothers have been talking about, like, whether they think they might be on the spectrum or not. And they've been taking all these different online tests. And they're like, oh, yeah, I'm pretty sure I might be on the spectrum because I took this test and I scored this out of this. And, like, I would take that test and I'd be like, yeah, I'm not on the spectrum. But I think, here's the thing for me. I think part of the reason why I have a lot of friends who are not neurotypical is because a lot of the neurotypical people I know are really like they don't talk about stuff in depth. And I am super curious. And so when I find somebody who has like a really strong focused interest in something, I'm like, oh my gosh, tell me everything. And more of my neuroatypical friends are more likely to have interests like that, where they, instead of having a broad knowledge, but shallow knowledge, they have like very specific knowledge in certain things. And I feel like I learned so much from them. So, yeah. I guess I don't mind being the token neurotypical because I learned so much being the token neurotypical. So, yeah. Ouch. Alright, how far down can I go here? Yeah, I think there's some kind of something down here. Interesting. Anyway, I think the most important thing in life is to realize there's a lot of variety in how people view things, and it's worthwhile to get different perspectives and different points of view, and to try to understand how different people think and what they find, what they find interesting, what makes things interesting for them. Reminds me of my mom's hen brunch a few years ago. A family friend of ours realized she was the token straight friend because she was the only person who wasn't part of the LGBT community there. Oh, yeah. I have that experience too, actually. I'm often the token straight as well. I'm like, I actually really, I don't mind being the token straight. It's actually, I find it I think it's kind of subversive in a way. But, yeah. No, I get that. Okay. I think might wrap this up soon, because, obviously I can go pretty deep in this game. I only started with one little dig. I started like that. Oh, look. And now look at me. Look at what I've accomplished. Look at that. What even is that? What have I done? What have I done? I mean, like ultimately, I guess my view of life. You could go pretty deep in this game. Is that a pun due to how much time you've already spent? Probably, probably. But I guess ultimately, I feel like for me, my philosophy of life is that you only have so much time on this planet. And you might as well take advantage of all the possibilities you have to learn and to experience things that might not necessarily be what you might think you would experience normally. Like, I think it's always good to get out of your comfort zone and, try to learn something new. I think that's why I like traveling so much, because it forces me to re-examine, how I view the world and stop to think of how other people view the world. I think life is boring if you just live thinking the same narrow way about everything all the time. It's like, why would you limit yourself that way? Like, there's so many things in the world to look at and explore and think about, sometimes you just need to dig holes and find deeper answers. Okay. My tummy hurts. Moist. I guess so. I guess it's a pun. I guess I'm just a punny person. I guess I just like puns. I shall blame that on Dragon Dad, who really liked puns. Okay. I think, I think at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop here. I'm going to save my game. I'm going to stop here, because it is getting a little on the later side. And I do want to check on Human Mother one more time before I go to bed. So I am going to save the game. I will probably come back to this. I really, really do enjoy it. Okay, so I'm going to quit. Yes, I have saved my progress. Okay. And I'll go over to just chatting. Alright, let's find somebody to raid. Who is streaming right now? Who is streaming? Oh, LT, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry your tummy hurts. That's really unfortunate. My stomach tends to be a little sensitive in general, so I get it. I get it a lot. Alright, let's see who I can... Right. Oh, Giva's playing Warcraft. We can go say hi to Giva since he came by and said hi to us at the beginning of the... Let's go read Giva. Giva's cool. Alright, so... Nope. Back. Okay. So, tomorrow I probably won't be streaming because a certain panda is coming to visit. And, unless he wants to play a game on stream with me. But otherwise, I'm thinking I'm not going to stream tomorrow. And then we'll see over the weekend because Panda is going to be here. And he will, I'll talk with him because we didn't make any specific plans about streaming. So, yep, Panda's going to be coming to visit me. because he wants to say hi to human mother and see how she's doing. And, you know, he very kindly, LT, so I know you haven't been around for a while, so my mom was in a bad car accident, and Panda came to stay with me a couple days to help me out, and he's been a really, really, really awesome friend and awesome boyfriend, and you know, he's been looking out for me, so I'm always so happy to have him come visit, because he is the kind of person we should all aspire to be, which is somebody who is loyal and kind and looks out for other people. That's the person I try to be. I'm not perfect, I'll admit, but I try. Yeah, but LT, she's okay. She got out of the hospital yesterday. She was in the hospital for 7 weeks. She had a bunch of broken bones, but she is okay. She is healing. She's doing good. So, all right, let's see. I'm going to go raid Giva. So say hi to Giva. He is a good friend of our channel, and I like raiding him because I think his model is just so much fun. So let's go say hi to Giva. Have a wonderful night, everybody. Please take good care of yourselves. Don't get in car accidents. And yeah, thank you for coming by, Foxy. It was really good to see you again. And yeah, take good care of yourselves. Drive safely. Drive safely. Everybody, drive safely. All right. That's all I'm going to say. All right. Have a good night. Bye.